Hey guys, it's Miss Vinian here with flip video number 3 for the Great Depression. We're still on the same essential question: how does the economic success or failure of America change American systems and the lives of individuals? We're also on Learning Target 5.4, I can trace the impact of New Deal programs through the present. Awesome. Let's get started. Okay, so first starting with this political cartoon, I want you to think about it. Farmers were some of the worst hit, and it's because they made too much stuff and people couldn't buy it fast enough. So you can see here this farmer is essentially tripping over overproduction, the fact that he's made too many things. Okay, here we have the Republicans. They renominated Herbert Hoover in 1932, but the Democrats nominated Franklin D. Roosevelt, who was the governor of New York, as their candidate. Hoover's inability to effectively tackle the problems of the Depression was the big issue here. In the end, though, FDR defeats the Republican in a landslide. In electoral votes, FDR wins easily, beating Hoover 472 to 59. He also got nearly 23 million popular votes to Hoover's 16 million. So Roosevelt ended up carrying 43 of the 48 states and got 57% of the popular vote, which is pretty crazy. He carried pretty much every region in the state. Alright, so some things about Franklin D. Roosevelt. He was born in 1882. He is a distant relative of Theodore Roosevelt. And Eleanor Roosevelt, his wife, was actually Theodore Roosevelt's niece. He would wear similar eyeglasses as Teddy Roosevelt, and people really thought that he looked like Teddy Roosevelt. And he would also say things that Teddy Roosevelt had said before. And FDR holds a lot of the same offices that Teddy Roosevelt did. He was in the 1920 presidential election as vice president, and they lost. And then after that, in 1921, he gets polio, where he is basically paralyzed for life. He was able, after working really hard, he was able to stand up and, with help, walk a few steps. And during this time period between 1921 and 1932, when he gets elected, his wife really helped him stay in the political world, because she did a lot of speeches for him, and his wife is Eleanor Roosevelt, like we've already talked about, and she was very heavily involved in his campaigning and in his political life. Okay, so in his first inaugural address, he really just wanted to restore confidence in the American people, and what's really cool about FDR is that he said, I don't know all of how to fix this. I don't know what my plan is, but I do know that we have to try things. And he's the president that said the famous, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. And he also asked for broad executive powers to combat the Great Depression, where beforehand the president didn't have as many powers, but now FDR asked for it and he receives. Okay, so what is his plan? Basically, his plan is the New Deal. And the New Deal is going to focus on 3 R's: relief, recovery, and reform. The New Deal is his nickname, just like we talked about Teddy Roosevelt had the Square Deal, okay, with the 3 C's. So it just makes it packages it nicely for the United States public to kind of say, hey, the New Deal is going to help us. And this is his new economic program. So they have to relieve people of the problems that they're having. They need to recover the nation, and they need to reform so this doesn't happen again. So when I ask you what the 3 R's are, you need to make sure that you know what those are, because each of the programs we're going to go over have to do with the 3 R's. Okay? Sorry, it's lunch bell again. Awesome. Okay. So, what are the 3 R's? Make sure you know them. All right. So how did he get this? How did this happen? So he had what they called the Brain Trust. And these members of his Brain Trust were sort of his cabinet members. They helped him come up with all of these plans we're about to go over. He got people that disagreed with each other so that he could hear all sides. So some of the people that he got didn't believe in helping the people directly. They believed in helping the businesses, which would then help the people. And some of them believed in just helping the people directly. And so he used these people every day, he met with them every day to try to get their opinions on how to fix the economy. So in the first 3 months that Franklin D. Roosevelt was president, he has the 3-month period after the inauguration is called the 100 Days. The first 100 days, a lot of presidents will refer to this. This is like when they're going to get things done. It's also what we call, in quotes, the honeymoon period. That means they were like still in love and they were still friends. So pretty much during this time, anything that Roosevelt sent to Congress, they passed. Some programs we're going to talk about: the Agricultural Adjustment Act is going to help farmers. The Tennessee Valley Authority is going to help, obviously, Tennesseans who are constantly flooded and don't have jobs. And then the Glass-Steagall Banking Act will help separate commercial banking versus investment banking and doesn't tie the two together, so that when you put your money in a bank, they're not essentially gambling your money to the stock market. And it also will create other insurance programs. So these are some of the things he pushed through in the first 100 days, and we're going to kind of go through some of these now. The first thing that he's going to do is he's going to close the banks, because since 1928, people are doing bank runs over and over and over again, and about 4,000 banks had closed in just the year 1933 by itself. To stop this, one of the first governors ordered, he was a Michigan governor, William Comstock, and he ordered a banking moratorium. Moratorium means a stop or an end, and he shut down all the banks for a 7-day period in February 1933. But it didn't stop everything. So FDR took office and he created a bank holiday, and the banks were then inspected. And if you passed the inspection, then you could open back up. And Roosevelt guaranteed that the banks that opened up, he would vouch for, and that your money was safe. So people started putting their money back in the banks, and this will help the economy. He also creates the FDIC, which is going to insure people's money. Okay, and with Roosevelt, he also did fireside chats, which we know as radio talks. FDR spoke plainly with audience about issues and concerns, and this helped them feel connected. And really, he would just say, hey guys, here are the things that we're trying, here's what's working, here's what's not working. And he would use these fireside chats later on in World War II. All right, so what are some of these programs? A work-based relief program is something that will help people who need jobs. So FDR considered unemployment a major immediate problem. So the first thing he's going to do is he's going to provide work for people, because he doesn't want to just hand money to people. And some people saw the make work programs as boondoggles. A boondoggle is like something silly, but it's basically after a Boy Scout craft. It just meant to occupy the scouts' time. So they just thought that it was supposed to occupy people's time, but actually they were very helpful in some cases. Okay, so one of the first one is the CCC, the Civilian Conservation Corps, and this is just for young men that are age 18 to 25. They had to go work on environmental projects, and they went to forests, did all sorts of things. And this is one of the most popular New Deal programs, and it's the most successful. It lasts till about 1942. If you were in it, you got paid $30 a month, and you had to send $25 of that home to your family, so that would help your family get back on their feet. This is a recruitment for that. Okay, so we'll read through that. Public Works Administration is another one. This is money given to contractors for public works. So the people who are out of work are going to now be able to build things commissioned by Franklin D. Roosevelt, and they built bridges, schools, airports, roads, and Navy ships. And then you have the Civil Works Administration. The Civil Works Administration wasn't as successful as the other ones. They mainly made bridges and buildings, but it spent so much money in the first year that they got rid of it. So that's the CWA. That's also a vocab word. It did give high wages to people, and it did cost a lot of money. But it did give more than 4 million people jobs. Then you have the Works Progress Administration. All of these are like 3 letters, so you got to remember them. We have the CCC, we have the PWA, the CWA, and now we're on the WPA. It's created in 1935, and it focused on public works such as bridges, roads, and runways for airplanes. But the cool thing about the WPA is also included art projects, and under the WPA is where Franklin Roosevelt sent out the photographers to photograph the Great Depression, and specifically the Dust Bowl, which are those pictures that we looked at in class. And it would also give adults with job training, give them job training. So he also supported writing, theater, photography, and painting programs, and so this is for people who make their living other than just traditional work styles. We also have the Federal Writers Project, which allowed writers to work directly for the government, and they gave them a subsistence wage, so basically they could just make enough to live. and several really famous writers participated in this, like John Steinbeck, Richard Wright, Zora Neale Hurston. All of those were very famous. They got about $20 a week. Then we also have the National Industrial Recovery Act. So this is going to help businesses. And this was like a really big thing in the New Deal. This one sought to promote fair competition, raise wages and prices, and institute collective bargaining, which means that there can, like, unions could be there. And so created codes of fair competition. This was not required, but if any company that was part of this would have the Eagle sticker in their storefront, and it let people know that they had fair practices. And that's it for today. I know it was a lot of information. I went through it kind of fast, but that's okay. You know about FDR now and the beginning of the New Deal. Our next video will have the last of the New Deal programs we're going to cover, and we'll also have the end of the Great Depression, and then you'll be ready for your test. Hope you all have a great night. Talk to you later.